receivers after a sloppy performance. After the game, Brady said, quote, "We didn't make a lot of great plays. Wasn't a great game." Nick, what'd you make of Tom Brady last night?
Listen, you got to feel for him. I mean, what's he supposed to do? All the team's done is spend a first-round pick on a running back, first-round pick on a wide receiver, traded second-round pick for a wide receiver, still have Julian Edelman. He had over 3 seconds to pass before each pass last night. I mean, I don't know what you expect a 42-year-old man
so
to
you're
do,
good.
except for maybe be a little more accurate. The receivers are not helping him, but Brady is not helping the receivers right now either. And if you can't acknowledge that, you're not watching them play.
I mean, dressing your wide receivers down when you know you're on camera, really, I wouldn't suggest that. You know, you should be building these young guys up instead of trying to dress them in front of the national audience. Brady has to take some accountabilities for some of the things that he's doing wrong. He's skipping a lot of passes, and, you know, he gets hit early, and then you talk about me in the cowardly lion, he kind of folds up like a bad 10.
Oh,
wow.
And, by the way, one pick was taken off the board yesterday because of a holding call.
On to Patrick Mahomes now and the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes looked good against the Raiders. He looked healthy, and he proved it, scoring 2 touchdowns, 1 in the air, 1 on the ground. Also got plenty of help from the defense, who forced 3 turnovers. Andy Reid now 18-3 following a bye week in his career. Nick, are people sleeping on Kansas City?
Yeah, and I'll be quick here. Yes, they are, but they won't be 6 days from now after they beat New England. The Chiefs had a terrible 2-minute stretch at the very end of the Titans game where a half dozen things went wrong, which cost them that win. That made a lot of people just cross them out. Since then, most importantly, their defense against the Chargers, now against the Raiders, has looked better than it's looked all year. Patrick Mahomes wasn't even very good yesterday, and they were up 38-3 with a minute left in this football game, Bart.
I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see them be able to win ugly games, because in the playoffs, you're going to go against teams that can punch back, and you want to see them be able to gut out some tough wins. You know, yesterday was an example of that, but you hope that next week, even though they beat New England, I believe, you wanted them to have to face some type of adversity. You don't want them to have to figure things out when they get in the postseason.
All right, moving on to Carson Wentz and the Eagles in Miami to face the Dolphins. Second quarter, 4th down. Dolphins line up in a funky formation on the 1.
Gate. It's called the swinging gate, Jenna.
Field goal attempt. Kicker Jason Sanders catches a touchdown on the true play. What is it called?
The swinging gate.
Swinging gate.
You can find it in Football for Dummies 101.
Miami takes the 14-13 lead, 4th quarter. Dolphins up 6. The Eagles went for that Hail Mary. It was anyone's ball. Dolphins say, it was ours. Wentz picked off. Eagles fall to 5-7 on the season, despite 3 touchdowns from Carson Wentz. Here's head coach Doug Peterson after the game.
As crazy as this is, I mean, I would say it's a long shot, but we're not out of it. We do have 4, of our division opponents coming up, and the guys got to understand that, and it's my job to make sure they do understand that we're still fighting and coming to work this week and ready to go and try to figure this thing out. In my position, I've got to make sure that the team understands that we got to guard against that, and we're still a good football team. And again, listen, it's about what we do.
Right now, the title in the NFC East is like hot potato. No one seemingly wants it. The Eagles had a chance with Cowboys losing, and they couldn't cap on it. What has gone so wrong for this Philadelphia team, Nick?
Well, everything at this point. And I take issue with what Doug Peterson said there. I don't know if people caught it at the very end. He said, we're still a good football team. Compared to who? What's your evidence?
The division?
But even compared to your division, you're looking up at a Cowboys team that is playing its worst football of the year right now. In your conference, the complete list of teams with worse records than the Philadelphia Eagles: Washington, the Giants, the Lions, the Falcons, and the Arizona Cardinals. That's it. Yesterday's loss cannot happen if you have any hope of not only being a playoff team. You're going to get to host a playoff game. It's going to be a ton of fun when we get to watch an 8-8 NFC East team host a 12-4 wild card team. It's going to be outrageous, but that's what we're staring at. You're up 10-0 immediately against the Miami Dolphins. They claw back in it. You're then up 28-14 in the second half, and you let the Fighting Fitzpatrick score 23 straight? You got to be kidding me. It wasn't a game where all of it, kick return touchdown, we have a blocked kick, Carson Wentz has 4 fumbles. No, your defense just folded up shop in a game you saw on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys lose. You know your schedule. You know it's all in front of you. You know what I know, which is you're going to get a home playoff game. You win the division, whether you deserve it or not. Right. And to to blow a 14-point second-half lead to these Miami Dolphins in a critical game cannot happen if you're an average football team, much less the good football team Doug Peterson claims they are.
Can I put that on the T-shirt, Defining Fitzpatrick's?
Yeah, no, yeah, you can have it.
I love Brian Flores, who has this team playing amazing. You know, we laughed at the Dolphins early in the season, but they were in a lot of tough games early on, and they're learning how to finish games. You know, Devontae Parker, who was thought of as a cast-off, really has made some big plays. But I think this is more about Philadelphia and their lack of a killer instinct. I feel like ever since they got that title, we know we've heard reports that, you know, that they've been, didn't Orlando Scandrick say that? That we're going to have on the show later, said that, you know, they're still celebrating and living off of that Super Bowl because in that city, it's the first one. They don't seem like a hungry team. They don't seem like a team that's got a lot of grit to it anymore. It used to be like that, playing the underdog role, but now when they're the favorite, they don't come with that same fight, that same energy, and it's really starting to show. How can you, two teams that would disappoint you yesterday, Cleveland and Philadelphia, understanding what you have ahead of you, you can't lose to the Miami Dolphins.
Both up double digits in their games.
Right, because that tells me that you take the foot off the gas and you get conservative and you can't find a way to finish games against a team that you could have stepped on their throats. I mean, I don't understand. 8-8 probably will win this division. And the only good thing, the silver lining, and why Doug is saying, hey, I got to get the troops and let them know where we're at, that was the AFC opponent. Now they have all the opponents in their division, and they face the Dallas Cowboys. If they're able to win out against the Giants, against Washington twice, I mean the Giants twice, Washington and Dallas, then that gives them a better NFC.
Of course, but no, they can still win the division part. But the problem is when we talked about Philadelphia and that they were in such an advantageous position, even though they were trailing the Cowboys, it was because in addition to the Giants and Washington, they had the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Like if you can allow 23 unanswered to Miami, you are not a lock against anyone. You're not a lock against Danny Fumbles. You're not a lock against Dwayne Haskins. You're certainly not a lock against the Cowboys, that Jekyll and Hyde team. Like, this Eagles team has no excuse for yesterday.
Yeah.
You want to say the reason that their season's gone awry was they lost their speed at the wide receiver position. How many points they score? Scored 31 points yesterday. That's got to be
more than enough to win,
to beat the Miami Dolphins.
Well, look, the problems that they're inflicting them now are the same things earlier on in the season. The roster, leadership in that locker room, and then the shaky play of Carson Wentz, who, by the way, yesterday actually played well enough to win the game. Exactly.
If you are up 28-14 on the Miami Dolphins in Week 13 with a chance to tie for the division,
gotta win, and
you don't finish it, then everyone has to wear that from the head coach on down.
All right, let's move on to the biggest game on the schedule yesterday. 49ers and Ravens picked this up in the second quarter. Lamar Jackson and his ability to run picks up his second touchdown of the day. He had 101 rushing yards in this game. Lamar will lead the Ravens down the field to give Justin Tucker a chance to win the game with the score tied at 17. Tucker nails the 49-yarder to make the 49ers go away. As Bart would say, night-night. Give you a chance.
It's a long flight home, too. That's a long flight home when you lose a tough matchup.
Ravens are now the 1 seed in the AFC. Here's the Tucker after the game.
I feel like in the spirit of my teammates who have been up here to talk to you guys the last few weeks, I should say something like real inspiring, like big trust. And I'll open it up for questions.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Nick, are the Ravens the best team in the NFL after what they did to the 49ers yesterday?
Well, that's certainly the best kicker in the NFL and one of the most valuable special teams players I've ever seen. And for a team that plays the style they play, it is so critical to have a kicker like him, and he's been awesome for years and years. But to answer your question, Jenna, they're certainly playing like it right now, because I didn't think they played great yesterday.
Not at all.
I didn't think Lamar threw the ball well. I understand the conditions were really tough. I thought San Francisco's game plan was incredibly sound. San Francisco ran all over them. Jimmy G had the bad fumble early, the fumble that you almost saw coming if you're watching. You're like, just get down, man. You see people coming, but he didn't throw the ball to Baltimore. And San Francisco made a few key fourth downs. They missed the fourth down late in the game. That was the last time they touched the football. But here's right now why Baltimore has the argument that they're the best team in the NFL. They have an extra down that the rest of the league is not utilizing. They are in, I'm not a good golfer.
Analytics.
Right, I'm not a good golfer, but if you're just an average golfer and you're going up against a good golfer and they give you a shot a hole, you're going to win. If everyone else has 3 plays to get 10 yards. And these guys got 4, which is how they are running their team. They are at such a strategic advantage. And then you add to it, everyone else feels good about field goals, getting 3 points once they get inside the 30. And Baltimore feels great about it once they get to the 35. They basically start every game up 6. Like, we're going to get an extra field goal that you're not going to get. We're going to get an extra possession that you're not going to get because we're going to go for it on these 4th downs. And that right now, in addition to how difficult Lamar is to defend, because even in the game where he didn't play that well, he still had 100 passing, 100 rushing. All of those things, to me, make them the toughest team to plan for week in, week out.
I mean, they're tough to plan for, but some of these teams that they're going to play in the playoffs are going to see them for the second time. And they see the recipe to try and defeat them is to run the ball, keep them on the sideline, and try and get up. Because even though this offense is averaging, I believe, 1st in scoring and #1 over 200 yards rushing, it still isn't a one-shot big, fast hitting. You know, you saw some quick strike off. You saw some of those drives, scoring drives with 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So if you get them behind against a team like Kansas City, then you have to come out of your game plan. And I still don't know if Lamar's proven that. For me, I think the best team playing right now has to be the New Orleans Saints because they're the most complete team.
Well, and you mentioned the outside passing game, Bart. That was, again, I'm not going to hold yesterday against them because the conditions were tough, and they were able to get the win. But you